Hi, and welcome to Over the Gunsmith's Shoulder. I'm Gene Kelly, president of the American Gunsmithing Institute, and in this segment, Master Gunsmith Ken Brooks is going to walk you step by step through a gunsmithing repair. You're going to learn a lot. And if you'd like to learn to be a certified professional gunsmith, then go to AmericanGunsmithingInstitute.com and request an information package. Now let's learn from Ken.
Well, I see you guys are back to spy on me again. All good. So what do we got today? We got a Marlin 336. So let's see what the tag says here. Open to 3030 improved and restamp the caliber. So I'm going to pull the tag off of here. This is a Marlin 336 3030. The gentleman wants it punched out to 3030 improved. So what I got to do is I got to tear this apart, and we'll do most of the work in the big lathe and then put it back together. So that's where we're going. That's what I got to do. I'll talk a little bit while I'm tearing this guy apart, the first half. So first thing we're going to do is show you that it is indeed empty. So we're empty. Now I can tear it apart and regale you all with lies and propaganda as I tear it apart. What's kind of interesting about this one is this isn't the first 3030 improved I've done for this gentleman. Great guy, one of my locals, and very nice man. He comes in and he starts telling me he's been reading up on wildcats, and he's got a P.O. Ackley book and a couple of these books, and so he's talking about this book and he's explaining more and more about what it is and what's going on. And I said, "Who's the author?" He says, "I don't know, some Fred guy." I said, "Fred Zeglin?" He's all, "Yeah." I'm like, "Fred's a friend of mine. He's an AGI instructor." "No way." So I got out the AGI catalog and showed him. "Yeah, we're friends." He got a big kick out of that. Thought that was just great. He's got a couple of Fred's books. So another happy customer. Anyhow, like I was mentioning, this isn't the first one I've done for this gentleman. This is going to be about the third one. So what I'm doing is just going to take it apart just enough to do the work we need to do on the gun. And what I've got to do is, just give you a rundown, is we're going to ream out the chamber to 3030 improved. The 3030 and 3030 improved headspace on the rim of the cartridge. So I don't even need to check this with gauges, since everything slides in right up to, unless he was going to hand load and have it headspace off the shoulder, which he's not, so I don't need to worry about it, checking it with headspace gauges. I can simply take the gun apart, put the barrel in my lathe, and run the reamer in until it just barely starts to kiss, the rim cut portion of it just starts to kiss the back of the barrel. At that point, stop, polish the chamber, screw the barrel back in, test fire, and we're done. Away we go. So it's not a real in-depth where you're checking the headspace with gauges and stuff real regular. So I don't need to be taking the gun completely apart. I took out the butt plate screw, or excuse me, the butt stock screw, set it over here. I've got to take off the barrel from the receiver, so that means I got to take the forearm and the magazine tube out. I will probably take the bolt out simply because it's easy to do on these. Take the lever out, that's what I'll do next, and withdraw the bolt. And if these are going to be gone for any length of time, get a box or something to put your screws in and you don't lose them. Pull your lever out, pull the bolt right out the back, turn it over, shake out the ejector, which will fall out, put it there. The big parts you're probably not going to lose. Now, you can take out, or one could, a gunsmith could, take out the trigger plate assembly, but we really don't need to. We're going to clamp the receiver with flat-sided jaws to unscrew the barrel being our barrel vise. There's no sense in taking this all apart if you don't need to. It's just a waste of time. So I'm going to knock out the sights. Non-marring nylon punch saves the day. Let's see here. That looks like that one. The magazine. Sling band guy. I got my bigger screwdriver out. That's the only reason I moved up to this band. Get a smaller screwdriver. I know my arms and shadows and things are in the way. I just need to unscrew that real quick. Let's see if I can push out that screw. Always use the right tool for the job. Since I didn't need a lot of tension, a plastic screwdriver handle worked well. I could have used a hammer, but you can see a little rust on that pin. That's the reason it didn't want to slide out quite as easy as it should have. Wipe that off. All right, getting closer. Gonna remove the hood. And 2 sight screws for the front sight. Yeah, I may have to grind a screwdriver to fit. So one thing that people have commented, or some people have even complained over the years about us, is that boy, your screwdrivers sure look ugly, and you don't, why don't you have a special set of screwdrivers for the gun you're working on? So I'm general repair, which means I never know from day to day what gun I'm going to be working on. So imagine, so general repair, I work on whatever comes through the door, almost whatever comes through the door. If you're going to work on, and you're going to have a set of screwdrivers for every single specific gun, just kind of start to do the math in your head. So how many different H&R revolvers are there? Okay, there's an H&R auto pistol that I'm aware of. How many H&R rifles? Several. Shotguns, yeah. So you need a set of screwdrivers for each one of those guns. Then Smith & Wesson revolvers, Smith & Wesson auto pistols, SIG auto pistols, Colt revolvers, double action, single action, black powder. You can see where I'm going here. Remington 700s, Remington 22s. How many 22s they got? 511, 510, 512, 550, 572s, on and on and on. So we have a set of screwdrivers that are set up to where they work with 90% of the screws we run into. Okay, when a screw is tight or the gun is very, very high end and we got to be real careful, I will go to the 1-inch belt and grind my screwdriver to where it fits the slot precisely so I can be extra careful. Not that I'm not careful with a Marlin 336 as an example, but chances are the screws aren't going to be super duper tight on this. So as long as I don't mar up the screw, I don't care what the screwdriver looks like. And I have some that are close enough that they fit and work well. Again, if I've got to have one that fits precisely, I go and modify the screwdrivers. And that's part of the reason they're so chewed up and ground on, is that we're grinding them to fit a specific screw. I know that's kind of a long-winded explanation, but we get that from time to time. The customers and students want to know what's going on. All right, turn this over, continue on with the DNR. All right, mag tube, plug, screws. Sometimes this band, oh, there's the follower. You can see other crud falling out of the forearm. Sometimes this band won't slide off the wood. The barrel's tapered. So a lot of times you can see it slid down that far. Once it slides that far, it gets quite a bit easier. Then it'll come off. Now I know there was rust in there from that screw, so I just want to make sure there's no rust in there, and I may want to even clean out this hole a little bit. So when we go to put it back together, the parts will slide through a little easier. Set this over here. And like I was mentioning, okay, got the sight, the barrel's clear, or clean, I should say. Put it in my barrel vise and then use a flat wrench to unscrew the receiver, put the barrel in the lathe, run the reamer in as far as it needs to be, and we know because they have a rim cut, we'll get right up to the end, you'll see it when we do it, and then stop, pause the chamber, take it out of the lathe, screw it back into the gun, index it, and away we go. So a lot of times I will index the barrel just to make sure that I get the barrel indexed, and by index it I just make a mark on the barrel and the receiver so they can line up. It's not life or death since this one has open sights. You can simply put the sights back in and make sure they're square with the top flat here. I'm looking at this gun down the flat right now, and the dovetail and the front sight holes actually look like they're a little to the left to me. So I'm going to go ahead and index this, and basically what I do is I just take a center punch and mark one spot. All right, so you can see this flat right here. It's machined off to here. We got a nice edge right there, but down here it's kind of rounded over. So what I'm going to do is just center punch or scribe. I could even use a screwdriver if I wanted. Right there. Just some sort of a mark to line them up. Now that I got that little screwdriver mark, I'll take my little center punch. And you don't have to do this. So right there's the center punch and the scribe mark on the barrel. So long as I line those back up when I screw it back together, we should be right back to where we were. Put my glasses on and we'll go up to my barrel vise. All right, barrel's in the barrel vise. Wrench with padding is on the receiver. Sometimes they're not super tight. That one's a little tight. Tighten up my barrel vise a little bit. Give my wrench a good couple of sharp little wraps. Ooh. Remember, nothing's holding the barrel in place. Bolts out of the gun. Good sharp little whack. That click you're hearing is the carrier flopping around in there. There we go. Now, I don't even take the receiver out of the wrench because I'm going to screw it back on when we're done. Going to do the work on the barrel. We'll see at the lathe in just a minute. So here we have the barrel set up in our lathe. Got our reamer in our floating reamer holder. So we're going to turn the lathe on in a few and run the reamer in. So be aware that this portion of the barrel, it's the back of the barrel, that's where the rim comes to rest. The rim of the cartridge. So we're going to run our reamer in until the rim cut portion of the reamer comes right up and just kisses it. Once we know we're that close, the shell will go all the way in and away we go. So this is a pretty simple rechamber job. Turn our lathe on. I always give the reamer itself some oil and inside the barrel or the chamber. And we just run our reamer in. Start cutting our chamber. Once I feel it cutting a little bit, go ahead and back it out. You can see some of the chips on there. Clean off the reamer. For the rough cut clean, I'm just going to use an old t-shirt. And then I'm going to slide the reamer out of the way and clean the barrel. Couple of patches, clean out any of the chips, extra nonsense. A lot of times I'll brush off the back of the barrel because a lot of times they won't get cleaned off by just running a patch through there. And then I'll shine a flashlight down inside there to inspect the chamber, make sure that all the chips are out of there all the little fuzzies off the patches, because you don't want that stuff getting in there. I know I stopped in mid-sentence because I saw something right here. See that? We don't want a chip or something in there that's going to catch on the reamer when we go to slide our reamer back in there, chip it or break it. And repeat. I can feel it grabbing. And simply repeat until, I'll clean this off a little better. Now in this view, I've turned the lathe off. We're going to run the reamer in until this is the portion of the reamer that cuts the rim cut, if there needed to be a rim cut in the barrel. This is the portion that would cut it. So this is the portion we're going to run into until it just kisses the back of the barrel. And repeat. So you can see where we've lightly scraped the bluing off right here. That's the rim cut. So we're done. Our chamber's as deep as it needs to be. Now we need to turn up the RPMs, polish the chamber, then take it out of the lathe and put it back in the receiver. Okay, so we've got a mandrel. It's one we've used for years. Sandpaper wrapped around it. We're going to go in, polish our chamber. Change out to a little finer grit. In this view, you can see the highly polished chamber. We're going to take the barrel out of the lathe, go put it in the barrel vise, and reinstall the receiver. All right, our barrel's in our barrel vise. It's upside down, if you will. Right here's where the magazine tube is going to fit. The sights obviously would be on this side. And that's different than when we took it apart. When we took it apart, we put it in there just so we could hit the wrench and unscrew the receiver. I want to be able to see our index mark, which is right there, so I can line it up when I screw the receiver on. So I get my flashlight down here so I can see things a little better. Take a look at that, make sure I can get that index mark lined up. I'm going to give the barrel or the wrench a little thump to help seat it. That should be pretty close. We'll take it out, get back to the bench, and double check things.
If you're learning something, be sure and like and subscribe to this channel. You don't want to miss out.
All right, so we're back at the bench, got the barrel screwed in, indexed. We're ready to reassemble the gun as far as we're going to reassemble it. And the reason I say that is if I was going to refinish the gun or do some other modifications, then I wouldn't reassemble the magazine assembly in the forearm. I just leave that stuff off. I'd assemble the breech bolt, the finger lever, and the stock, because I can test fire without putting all the rest of that stuff on here. This gun's not here for a refinish, that kind of stuff. So when I'm done test firing, the gun's done. It's ready to go back to the customer. So I'm going to put the whole thing back together. First thing I'm going to put on is going to be the forearm. And sometimes you can thump it. Sometimes you can use just the palm of your hand to drive the forearm on. There we go. Make sure it's lined up right. You want it tight here between the wood and the receiver. And I use my hand on the tip, not a ball peen hammer, because I don't want to damage the wood. Now at this point, I'll take the rear band, the band that goes over the barrel and the forearm, and slide it back on. And remember, this one was tight coming off. It's probably going to be tight going back on. Non-marring punch, and I know my hands are in the way from time to time, guys, but get that on there and seated. Now I'm going to take the magazine tube, start it through the forearm. So you can see the magazine tube notch and the barrel notch, they've got to line up. So sometimes you can just hit them with a non-marring tool. Sometimes you can twist them. There we go. Now you can see they're lined up. Now we can take the front band, slide it over the barrel and the magazine tube, back to where it lines up with the groove in the barrel and the magazine tube. Don't put the screw through yet. Need to put our follower in. Listen to make sure it goes all the way to the end. Put our spring in. And if our magazine tube likes to move forward under tension, you can put the screw through that front band at this point before you put the plug in. But I honestly believe that this one is going to be rigid enough, stiff enough, that the magazine tube will stay in place after I put the plug in and the screw. Then I can make sure that the band is where it needs to be. It's got to come back just a little more. Once it goes through. Now the front band screw obviously fits through the band, through the magazine tube and the barrel, which is good because that's what helps prevent the magazine tube from surging forward under recoil. I'm going to put in the rear band screw as well. And again, I know my arms are in the way, guys. There we go. Flip that around. Let's get some of these other bigger parts out of the way real quick. So the ejector, the stud fits through the side of the receiver, right there. And let me turn that up so you can see. There's a groove in here that the ejector sits in. So I started in that groove, and then I just push it back until that stud comes through the receiver. Start the bolt through, and it's circular, round, so you can rock it back and forth until it fits over the ejector. The ejector fits in this groove right here. Once that comes far enough forward, push forward about halfway. You can go a little further if you want. Turn this finger lever screw in. At this point, I'm even going to put the buttstock on. See the rust in the threads and the crud? So I'm going to take an oily toothbrush. I've got some oily ones floating around, and brush out that rust. Then I got a little bit of oil on there, as well as cleaning that out. Okay, I'm going to turn this up. And you're probably not going to be able to see it. I got to be able to get leverage to where I can screw that down without fear of it slipping off and scratching things up. Well, we're winning. Now we're going to install the front sight. And again, my arm's in the way, I get it, but I got to be able to hold the front sight assembly and the gun on the bench. It doesn't balance very well. The hood, since we're here, again, I need 3 hands. There we go. Take our rear sight. So here's our rear sight. And I've got it started in the dovetail. And by that I mean I just started wedging it in. Now a lot of times I'll just take any old non-marring, and I'm not hitting it very hard, just to get it to go. Get it started so it stays in place. Once it's started, I'm not worried about it falling out. I can use my non-marring punch to drive it back in. Now I'm going to look down it to see if we're fairly close. I'll use my collimator to double check. Put the elevator in. So far so good. One last thing, and that is our magazine band sling swivel affair. And I know, guys, I apologize for my fingers being in the way, but sometimes there's just nothing you can really do about it with what we're doing. Try to make sure it's centered. See if I can do that with my left hand so you guys can see it, because otherwise my right hand's in the way. Just gonna double snug that just a little. Slide that guy through there. Put our sling on. And the next time you see me with this gun, we'll be at the range. All right, I mentioned that we'd see you at the range. Here we are at the range. Ear protection, eye protection, gun, safe direction. Let's see what it does. One more. Actually had 3, but I don't need to shoot that third one. And here you can see our improved cartridge. All well and good. Back to the shop, write it up, ship it out, or call the customer actually, have him come get the gun, and give me money. See you later.
If you want to learn real gunsmithing and see more videos like this, be sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss out. If you're interested in training to be a real gunsmith, go check out the AmericanGunsmithinginstitute.com, or for your own firearms training, AmericanGunsmith.com.